Good morning to you, listeners, and good morning, Theo. It's a Wednesday morning, and it's the 20th of November, 2024. You are on the fifth connection. I am Terry Martin, and the Theo van Rensburg Leinster sits 14,300 kilometers north of me. How are you this morning, Theo?
Oh, that's not too far north, as the cow flies or something flies. But this is the 20th. You're absolutely right. It's 10 days after my birthday, and I'm still yet to receive anything substantial. I have gone down to the letterbox every single day. We still have letterboxes here in Sweden, and there's nothing like NUTTIN. No, nothing. There's nothing.
Well, you better be good. You better not cry. I'm telling you why. Well, you're close to Santa's territory, so maybe if you behave, you'll be in for something good.
I will trust
But
that
it's
you'll
good.
put a good word in for me. Good to be here, anyway.
It's good having you, Theo, and listeners. This morning we continue right along after just a day's absence. But
Yes,
we
we are
do our
thankful
best.
for that respite.
Yep. Yep. Not to skip a beat here, we'll just continue along. We are in Colossians chapter 3. We're going to look at verse 22 to chapter 4, verse 1, the section that was read in your hearing. We have been tracking through what wising up looks like. Getting wise, becoming wise, reaching for wisdom. In chapter 1, wisdom is personified. In chapter 2, we have the pitfalls to wisdom. What prevents us from getting there? And then in chapter 3 and 4 of the unfolding story, how do we posture in order to reach for wisdom? Because you see, in chapter 1, our skill sets need to show. We need to showcase wisdom skill. It's out on display. And oh, how we need wise men and wise women in our world today. How we need them in the believing community, because they really are in very, very short supply. There's a dearth of wise people who can think clearly and or who are willing to speak up, to speak freely, and to think freely. So this morning we're going to look at this section of what skill set we need to seize in verse 22 to chapter 4, verse 1. We are familied for fidelity in 3:18 to 4:1, and now we are familied for our vocations. We've got a job. We've got a family in our workspace, people that we need to relate to, because this is the real world. And so the writer is going to walk us through what that skill set looks like. And it's very crucial to understand here what Paul is shooting for, what he's aspiring to. And so I'm reminded of the Roman Empire. Some estimates place the Roman Empire's population at about 60 million in its heyday. That's around about AD 98 to 117 AD. And it says that at least a quarter of that total of 60 million, a quarter of that was, which was 15 million, they were slaves. And slaves' lives emerged from the ancient ruins of Rome. And this would mean that of an estimated Roman Empire of about 50 to 60 million, between 5 to 10,000 were enslaved. That's a huge number of people, and the gospel breaks loose. The gospel explodes in that part of the world. But it explodes in a very, very interesting way. And by the time we get to the end of this morning's grappling with the biblical text from the vantage point of vocation and what vocation looks like, vocationality looks like, we're going to see what a very famous politician said about how Christianity insinuated itself on the culture. And so, a slave's service, according to this section of the text, says a slave's service will be rewarded while a master has a higher accountability. Slave service will be rewarded while a master has a higher accountability. And the question in the backstory, the question behind the text is, where is lawfulness in the slave master relationship? Where is lawfulness in all of that? Because the moment we hear the word slaves and slavery, we've got a knee-jerk reaction to it. It's something in human history that doesn't sit well with people in a discussion or whenever it comes up. But we need to understand what slave status looked like in the Old Testament within the Jewish culture, and what the stringent rules and principles were that governed slave status within Israelite life. No Israelite was to be sold into slavery within the nation, within the context of that community. But aliens could be brought into slave status. And you would read a lot of that in the law codes of the Torah. And it turns out to be a very humane way of dealing with people who were taken into slavery. And it was predicated on the idea that the Hebrew people had slave status in Egypt for some 400 years, 430 years to be exact. They were enslaved in Egypt, and they made bricks for Pharaoh. And at some point they had to make bricks without straw for Pharaoh. And the book of Exodus starts out with God hearing the cry of his people. And that cry does not go unheard or unheeded. And God honors his commitment that he makes to Abraham, that he knew all the nations of the earth will be blessed, and I will make out of you, or from you will come a great nation. And now that they are in slavery, you see God in the early chapters of Exodus starts to unfold his plan and his purpose and brings them out of this slave status and builds them into a nation. He creates nationhood because he gives them a constitution called Torah. And Torah was to govern their life as they would not only wander through the desert in the wilderness, but also as they would go into the land and take the land and capture the land through warfare, through a northern campaign and then through a southern campaign. They would take the land over many years. And now Paul pipes up in this section of the scriptures in Colossians, and he's going to address slaves. Now, we sort of draw equivalence between slave and master and employer and employee. But we need to understand there's a great difference between the two. The owner possessed the slave. He was a possession, right? In our jobs, our bosses don't possess us. Now, some of us may feel that way. When you give your life to Pharaoh, to the government, to your boss, for many, many years, you may come out on the other end feel like you've been slaving. But they don't own us. We do work and we are remunerated for it. And Paul here calls for a very humane response on the part of slaves to masters and then masters to slaves. And he starts out in verse 22 and he says that staunch servants who work for their masters and work well will be rewarded by God. And in a couple of verses here, from 22 to 25, he's going to talk about them giving their lives to their work. Give your entire commitment in your job. Give it entirely. Don't hold back. Throw in your all. In verse 22. In verse 23 and 24, uh, your service is to be exclusive because you're working with the eye of God on your life, and then there is to be equitable dealings uh, on the part of the slave toward the master. And so in 22, he says, bond servants, obey in everything those who are earthly masters. Now, again, you got that word everything. And the moment we hear that word, we have major reservations. We have this knee jerk, you know. And immediately we come up with, well, what if this happens? What if there's abuse? What if there's inequity? What if there's injustice? Well, here's the general statement. Servants, obey in everything. And so we need to draw the lines of application very carefully between our relationship as employees with those who employ us. They are earthly bosses. And we have a commitment to them because we are throwing in our lot. It's the boss's time. It's the time to serve and to honor the commitment we've made to work for that person and to work for that company. And so here we need to be careful in everything. Don't steal time, you know, because you think that to witness to somebody here is more important than your commitment to your work. There's equal commitment both ways. And there's a time for everything, isn't there? A time to work and no play. And then there's a time to play without work. In everything, obey your earthly masters. Verse 2, not by way of eye service as people pleasers, but with sincerity of heart, fearing the Lord. We have a very strange way of viewing work in this country that I live in. Theos are living halfway around the world. And in South Africa, it seems that we have a very low view of work. We look down upon certain kinds of work. That work is below my dignity. And other work is beyond my dignity. And generally we just are plain lazy. We don't want to work, but we want to earn loads of money. Well, you are involved in as much ministry when you get into your assembly, working with fellow believers, whether it's in play or in praise, as you are when you are working for your company. They are both called ministry with a capital M. Don't put a small m in front of your job. Ministry, small m. And capital M is what I do within four walls when we come together, as we say, to worship. We have a dichotomy, a wrong way of thinking of work. Don't do it as men pleasers, as people pleasers, right? With eye service, not by way of eye service, just pleasing them because they're watching us, but with sincerity of heart, fearing the Lord. And so we're going to talk a lot more into this area because there's a real disconnect between what the scripture says our attitude ought to be in work and towards work and to what we see in our own culture in this regard. So Theo, I'm going to hand back to you now.
Yeah, this is a real issue. Thank you so much for raising this issue, Terry, and I'm sure that over the episodes to come, we will find additional clarity and maybe a horde of questions that we're wrestling with. I particularly appreciated your reference to the need for us to rid ourselves from the shackles of a current modern understanding of slavery. And so thanks for that as well, because it does cause us to stop looking at the scriptures from the life, the cultural experiences that we are having today, but to go back to that biblical text and try to understand that. That I think was quite heartening. Terry asked us today to play a song about work. Work the works. As a song by Danny Bell. Terry, why did you choose that song?
Well, the words are so potent because they come out of John chapter 9, where Jesus says, I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day.
Yes.
For when the night comes, it's time for sleep.
Yes.
Time for work will be done away. There's coming a day when all work will be done. But until then, we'll be working. And that's the song there.
Thank you. Thanks for listening and joining with us today. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Thanks for your time. Terry, thank you.
Thank you, listeners, and thank you, Theo.